last year we had our APCM, that's our annual meeting in November 2020, looking back at 2019. And there was this really big time gap between the annual meeting and the year that we were looking back on. Well, this year, of course, we have had time to adjust to the COVID impacted life that we have all lived through. Our annual meeting is therefore being held in its usual time slot in the year. So today we are looking back on 2020, the year that we will never forget. If we have learnt anything from 2020, it is that we cannot take anything for granted. We have lived through a pandemic that, as we know, typically comes about once every 100 years. Our lives have changed so much that it is perhaps difficult to remember what life was like back in early 2020. There didn't seem to be very much warning as to what was about to happen. I think back to the last Sunday when we worshipped in the dunes and how we didn't know that it was going to be our last Sunday worshipping in the dunes. Suddenly the doors were closed, as were the doors to just about everything else as a church and the rest of our lives. If I were to look back in my diary from January to March 2020, I would see, things like meeting with wedding couples and baptism families, weekly worship, Bible studies with other people, meetings about the running of the parish in other people's homes, regular activities such as the shop and social events, and we even managed to start building a new church. The final event before the first lockdown was the Diocesan Mission Weekend, where the diocese welcomed lots of bishops and their teams from across the northern province. And as parish, we worked with some of the team allocated to our deanery from the 12th to the 15th of March. And then on the evening of the 16th of March, the Prime Minister said, now is the time for everyone to stop non-essential contact and travel. And as with everything else in our lives, the usual activity of the church reduced significantly from that point. And consequently, we only conducted 4 baptisms, 1 wedding, but of course, funerals continued with 16 funerals and burials of ashes, of which 7 were held in St. Cuthbert's Church. The most prominent activity within the parish in 2020 was, of course, the construction of St. Hilda's. Despite construction being paused for 6 weeks during the first lockdown, it gradually restarted over the subsequent weeks. And as was to be expected, some materials became very difficult to acquire, and so there were some delays along the way. The fundraising effort didn't stop, and a number of grant applications were submitted, and a significant amount of money was received during 2020. This, of course, included donations from individuals, grant funds towards the construction, and grant funds towards the running costs once opened. It has not been an easy process, that's a huge understatement, with monthly site meetings having to mainly be virtual, and I cannot overstate the number of decisions that were made as part of this process. And in the end, I believe that we have a magnificent building that will be a wonderful place of worship, and it will be a true blessing to our community. And so as I say this, looking beyond, of course, 2020, which is really the remit of what I'm doing now, to look at 2020, but thinking beyond 2020, I am extremely grateful that we are to have an opening service on the 18th of May. It's been a long wait, but finally, we will be getting there. And so a special thanks to Rob for all of his hard work, and of course lots of other people have been involved. It really has been a lot of hard work to get to this point. When the restrictions have allowed, It has been wonderful to see those who have been able to attend worship in St Cuthbert's. A special thanks, of course, to those who have been involved in keeping worship going and ensuring that the church was safe for everyone. And for those who haven't been able to attend, and for when church has been closed, online worship and video sermons have maintained our connection with God and with parish worship. And so thank you to everyone involved in the preparation and delivery of weekly worship and making sure that it has been prepared early enough to ensure that everyone has access to it on Sunday mornings in its various forms. St Cuthbert's Fabric, the building, has also had attention this year, and various permissions have been granted for works to be completed, that have been completed or will be completed in the near future. So thank you to Bruce and Keith and everyone involved in the upkeep of the church. Amazingly, financially, we have kept afloat thanks to the generosity of our congregation members. We even managed to maintain our giving to the diocese in what has been an extremely difficult year for every single charity, organisation and business. Thanks, of course, to Sue Nicholson and all involved in the managing of our finances in these very challenging times. Overall, 2020 was a very tough year for everyone. And so thank you to everyone for your patience, perseverance, and maintaining contact and connection with other church members. It has been a year where we have looked out for each other in so many ways, quietly and behind the scenes. We are looking forward with hope. Hope of life post-COVID, or at least the worst of its impact. We are looking forward to some form of return to normality, no doubt with some restrictions still in place. We are looking forward to the St Hilda's opening, becoming fully functional and starting new activities. We are looking forward to seeing our children and young people in church again. We are looking forward to maybe even being able to sing. I'm sure the choir will be very pleased to be able to get together again. We are looking forward to welcoming Peter King, our curate, and his family in late June. As we look forward, it really is a new chapter that's just beginning in every sense. Having reflected on all that we have been through, and as we begin this new chapter, I wonder what it is that we want to be known for going forward. We receive a wonderful invitation from Jesus in today's gospel, where he says, "This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you." That's from John chapter 15, verse 12. So may all that we are and all that we do be a demonstration and a proclamation of God's love for all. Amen.